and welcome to this channel. I'm Kouki. So today I would love to share with you the two factors that decide our how we experience life. Well, you see, because how we experience life really depends on how we respond, how much we know ourselves, right? So it is not that how our lives are predetermined, but there are actually two factors that really decide how we experience life. How we experience life, not how our life would become. Okay? This is what I need to stress on. Not that how our life would be because of these two factors, but how much do we know about these two factors that are actually influencing how we experience our lives would be the beneficial things that for us to know, to learn about. And that's what I would love to share with you all here today. Now, again, is to experience life differently based on the two factors, how much we come into contact, how come into understanding with these two factors. And it's always about how we respond to situations and not about how things are being predetermined. Okay? Remember that. So that's what I'm trying to suggest here in this video. Now, I'm gonna put this video into three parts. Primary factor, secondary factor, so this would be the two factors, and then the tertiary factors. So this, in the tertiary factors, would be a group of things other than the primary and the secondary factors, basically. So let's get started. Now, the primary factor that would decide how we respond to situations individually, and that would become how we experience life as an outcome, right? Because how we respond is basically would lead us to experiencing life differently based on our individual response. Now, I'm just going to give a brief example. Say if you're on the street, somebody bumps into you, and it hurts. Okay? Like this, okay? Bumps into you, and it hurts. How would you respond? Now, for person A, this person might respond aggressively. This person might be like, "Whoa, did you know that?" Like chase back to the person who hurt him or her. "Whoa, did you know that you hurt me? Just like dude, apologize." Like this. Now that's one way. Another way of response for person B, that would be for person B, this person, it hurts, yeah? And then this person is like, never mind, let's just, I have something more important to do than, talking to a stranger or like arguing in the street. Okay, and then this person just focus on going his or her way and to doing whatever this person deems as more important, which is actually meeting his or her family for dinner. Like, I don't want to have my emotion getting disturbed by such an incident. Okay, so these would be two different scenarios that we can see how a person would choose to respond would cause this person to experiencing life differently than person A, right? You see the difference. So what is this primary factor here that could determine such different outcomes? But also secondary would be the same, okay? So primary and secondary, they are all interrelated to such a scenario that I just gave out. Now, for the first one, primary, is the intrinsic blueprint in each of us. Intrinsic blueprint. Have you ever heard of, in ancient Greece, the Delphi? I think it's Delphi maybe. Is an ancient wisdom known as know thyself, right? This is also common in different kind of religions as well, which is in Buddhism. They would also what the Buddhists practice It's basically to declutter, right? Declutter your mind, to cleanse your mind, your entire the channels. And so by decluttering, you would then know who you are, right? Finding out who you are. That's exactly the same thing that they're talking about, that they're suggesting. Now, even in Hinduism or in Vedanta, they all talk about how you practice yoga, the yogic practice, to cleanse your system, right? Doing the sadhanas and daily and again to cleanse yourself. And so at the end of that, or closer to that, more moving towards that, moving along with the spiritual journey, you would then becoming more and more clear of who you are as a person, as an individual, as a being. So all they are talking about here, all they're suggesting is know thyself. But know thyself, what is the thyself? The thyself, what they are pointing towards, they're talking about is our individual intrinsic blueprint. In a sense. But of course, if you go on the spiritual journey, it is not only about the intrinsic blueprint when it comes to a soul, because what I'm talking about here is more of a soul. Because we're talking about the context of the two factors that decide how we experience life. So life, only one lifetime. Okay, I'm just talking about in our daily interaction. Okay, this is what I'm suggesting. So we don't have to go too far into like to which realm, to which godhead we are. No, let's stay here. Okay, so what I'm talking about is this primary factor, as in the intrinsic blueprint, would cause us to respond to situations differently, and thus how we would experience life differently. Okay, and that's the scenario you already saw, person A and person B, right? But what makes this different? What is that intrinsic blueprint that would cause such a different outcome, right? Now I'm gonna give an example here. This would be an example that I think most people would be able to understand. So that's why I use it. It doesn't mean that it has to be the only way. So what the example is astrological natal chart. Astrological natal chart. So it's about astrology, right? It doesn't mean that it have to be only this way. I'm just using natal chart as an example, okay, to demonstrate how our individual intrinsic blueprint can affect each of us on how we experience life differently. Now, everyone has a different natal chart, basically meaning everyone is unique, right? In a natal chart, there are so many different elements at play, different angles, planetary angles, conjunctions, different kind of placement in different houses, in different zodiac signs. What does this mean? Now, let's not talk about woo-woo. I'm talking about logically thinking. What do you think about all these elements? It's basically a system, right? It is a system. It's just how people, the astrologers, organize all these elements in the sky. And they find the correlations between the planets, between the stars, basically, and and also the correlations between the stars, the planetary movements, and the events happening on Earth, and also how each person behaves differently according to how the stars move. So they are finding patterns. These are all patterns, okay? Now, what it means is that you see all the different elements in the natal chart. They are basically possibilities. They're playing with possibilities. I'm not saying the astrologers are playing. No. This experience of life here on this plane is basically the design of placing different elements together to form a blueprint of a soul. Okay, you, another person, each of us. And so you would experience light differently because of the different possibilities that would be brought about by different settings of these elements. Does it make sense? So that's why I use natal chart as an example, because if you see a natal chart, there are so many different possibilities. Even if just 1 degree difference, it could make a difference. For a person, the blueprint would be different. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so it's playing with possibilities. And these possibilities would then bring about different outcome for such a person to respond to situations. Example, person A, very aggressive. Person B, quite passive and quite, quite passive, okay, like non-reactive, okay, quite non-reactive, right? This one is very reactive, the person A. Now, I'm just gonna give a very made-up example, okay, even. Now, for this person A, he's very fiery, right? Combative. If you hit me, I hit you back. Like this kind of a feeling, right? It gives people this kind of feeling. This person, if in his or her natal chart, this person might have Mars in Aries. Mars in Aries. Okay, so Mars is already a fiery planet. Okay, now Aries is also very fiery. Okay, very headstrong. Like, okay, I'm combat. I'm the first one. I'm the warrior. Okay, that's Aries. Now, if this person has Mars in Aries in his or her natal chart, meaning that in any kind of difficult situations or conflicts, Mars symbolizes conflict. In any kind of conflicting situation, this person would go headstrong. Bump. Okay, you bump me, I bump you. Okay, this is how this person would intrinsically, as a blueprint, would have the tendency to respond in situations that involve conflicts. Okay, now when it comes to person B, same situation, right? Same scenario, but different response, different reaction. Now this person, similarly in Mars in what? Mars, same planet, okay? This person might have Mars in Cancer, soft, or even Mars in Taurus, soft, stable. Okay, Cancer is a water sign. Aries is fire sign, okay? Cancer is a water sign. These kind of people would be more about emotion. So this person, if when in conflicts, encountering conflicts in life, they might tend to absorb in the emotions rather than exerting them out. Now this one exerts, like bam. This one's like, ooh. Okay, like, okay, I feel it, I don't like it, but I have something else, to do. I don't want to get involved in this. Maybe it could be also Mars in Taurus. Taurus will be very stable, okay? Stable energy, earth. Taurus is earth energy. So that's why it would be very grounded and not be so much affected by emotions when in conflicts, when encountering conflicts. So this would then show how the intrinsic blueprint would cause a person to be more prone to be more aggressive in conflicting situations, or becoming more passive, more stable in conflict situations. All right, that's why they would then experience life differently. You can already tell, because for this person in this scenario, same scenario, but person A, they might get into a fight, like an actual fight, right? But for person B, no, this person would not get into a fight, but this person might actually have an emotional wound because of this, right? You never know. So you see, that's how we would then experience life differently because of the intrinsic blueprint. So knowing this, that there's such a primary factor at play in each of us, the good thing is you don't really have to, you can choose to learn about your natal chart, and that would be a good way to learn about the themes. Basically, it's themes, different themes at play that you have chosen before you come into birth. You yourself have chosen such a blueprint. So it is not something scary that you're not actually being controlled by someone else. No, you're in control of yourself, technically speaking, because you are the one that creates yourself to have such a human experience on this plane. And so you've chosen this blueprint to experience a particular theme of life or themes of life, and that's how you would, go through this experience and gather the learning experiences that you need for yourself. All right? So it is not something scary. And if you want to know more about it, you don't really have to go through the astrological way, or you could, but you can also just simply experience life on its own and have certain self-inquiry, self-reflective moments, journaling, self-talk, talking to oneself, understanding oneself, so basically reflection. And you can also by interacting with other people and to learn about oneself. So at the end of the day, it's basically know thyself, learn about oneself, who I am as a person. Because what suits the other person might not actually suit me or not you. So see, someone can, like for a person, this person needs to learn to be more courageous. But for another person, this person is already very, proactive. So maybe for the proactive person, this person needs to back down a little bit. That's why everyone is different. It doesn't mean that that person is very headstrong. You also have to be headstrong. No. If you're born to be soft, be soft. Yeah, be soft. The entire process is the decluttering of who you are not, and thus knowing who you are. That's the core. That's know thyself. Okay? And that is why all kinds of religions or ancient teachings, they have talked about know thyself, know who you are. And that's the process of it. Because the understanding the intrinsic blueprint of oneself, it gives us positive affirmations as well as how we can navigate through life in a more easier way, and also comfortable, and also understanding oneself, you would then be able to respond much more consciously. Okay, that's the good thing about it. Now, so this is the primary factor for determining how we experience life. Now, the second thing, secondary. The secondary thing is something that I have always been talking about again and again, and that is the belief system. The belief system is what it determines how we respond to situations, the same as how we would be affected by the intrinsic blueprint. But the thing is, here's the difference between the primary and the secondary. Why is the intrinsic blueprint the primary and the belief system is the secondary? Because the intrinsic blueprint, we can't change it. We cannot change the intrinsic blueprint. But for the second one, the secondary factor, yes, we can change the beliefs. It's all about the beliefs, okay? We can change our internal beliefs at will, anytime. But for the primary factor, nope, cannot change. It's just as how when we play video games. You choose a character. Okay, you choose a character. You know what, if you choose a character, Now say, play Mario Kart. Okay, it is the classic example. We play Mario Kart. I choose Yoshi. Yoshi! Yoshi! It sounds so oh my god, I was like Yoshi in a moment. So Yoshi. So if I choose Yoshi, Yoshi is Yoshi. Yoshi has a default setting. Yoshi has a default personality. Yoshi has a default set of abilities. Okay. So this is the intrinsic blueprint of Yoshi. Now, I can't change it. I can't change Yoshi. Just as like you see me now, right? I can't change my intrinsic blueprint of who I am as a being, as a soul. Okay? Just as you are, you can't change. It's not. It's not even necessary to change it because that's what it's meant for. To experience this life. Okay, so why would you even change it? Does it make sense? Like, you actually want to experience life in this way. That's why you've designed yourself to with such an intrinsic blueprint. So why would you change the intrinsic blueprint? Make sense? Okay, just as when you play Mario Kart, I want to experience this car racing video game with or through the character of Yoshi. Right? I would not be able to change midway. I can't change character halfway when I'm on the racing car. I'm on the race car, I can't change. Yoshi's Yoshi and everyone's just like racing past me. Even if I'm playing really like I'm losing, I'm falling behind, I can't change the character. I can only change the character after I finish the game, right? I can then like exit and then choose another character again. Then this time I might choose Daisy, right? The Princess Daisy. That's what it is. That's the same for us. We can't change the character. Can't. Okay? But at the same time, it's not necessary to change the character because that's what I wanted to experience through the character of Yoshi. Make sense? Okay. Okay, so that's why the primary is primary. Intrinsic blueprint is primary because it can't be changed. Secondary belief system can change. Now, although the intrinsic blueprint does affect our individual belief system, it does in a way. Okay, it does affect influence, but the belief system is so interesting. It's because we take in a lot of beliefs that might not even be ours since childhood. You don't even know that that's yours, but you're already doing it. I'm just gonna give an example that I've already given. I thought I wanted to buy a castle when I was a kid. I want to buy a castle. I won't have a vineyard. Okay. But later in my early 20s, I realized that was something that I said just to please my father. Okay, because I know that he likes it, so I was fawning. Okay, so that means it was not my belief. He wanted that. I knew he liked what I said when I said I'm gonna buy you a castle, or I'm gonna buy a castle and have a vineyard. He's happy about it, so I was fawning. All right, now that was not my belief. I don't like it. I actually don't like it. I actually like to have something cozy and eclectic and like an apartment, okay? Or flat, a house. I don't need a castle. I don't even drink alcohol now. So then why would I buy a vineyard, right? Oh, okay, I might visit a vineyard just to understand the chemistry of how they make the red wine. That I would be interested, but not drinking alcohol. So you see, that's the belief that I could take on somebody else's belief, thinking that shows who I am as a person, but actually that's not me. Okay, now so that means it change. It can change over time. It can change as I declutter myself more and more and realize, okay, that's not what I want. So that's not who I am. That's not what I believe in. That is why the belief system would then decide how we experience life. For me personally, when I embody that belief that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy a castle, I'm gonna buy a vineyard, I'm gonna drink red wine, that's what my father likes, not me. I thought that was me. I thought that's what I would like. I thought that's what I liked. Okay? Now, that would then cause me to experience life differently, because I would then maybe work towards that. Gaining a castle, buying a vineyard, and drink red wine. And turns out that experience, no, I actually don't feel good about it. I don't feel comfortable when I drink wine. No. I feel so much more comfortable without alcohol. Like personally, I'm not judging anyone who drinks alcohol, okay? No, it's just who I am. You see, everyone is unique. Everyone's different. You might experience life having alcohol, red wine, and you love it. You see? That's okay. Because that's how you want to experience your life. And my soul would like to experience life differently without alcohol. And that's great. Both ways are great, okay? So that's why what I'm stressing on here is that the belief system determines how we experience life differently based on what kind of beliefs we take in. So be clear with what we believe in. Is it actually mine, or did I take on somebody else's? Like I did, right? Like I did. I took on my father's beliefs. And that would cause us to experience life very differently. You see, like some people, they work their life towards gaining a lot of things, status, such and such. I'm not saying that it's bad. It's just that these actually might not be their beliefs. So for some people, when they get older or later in their lives, they realize that, why am I still feeling so empty? Why am I still feeling I thought that's what I want, but that's not making me feeling fulfilled. You see, why? It's because they might be experiencing life based on somebody else's beliefs. Does it make sense? Now, I'm going to use myself as an example. If I keep on not realizing that belief that I had about the vineyard and the castle was not actually mine, I might actually follow this pathway to experiencing life by chasing to buy a castle. Like I work very hard to get money, to earn money just to buy a castle and to buy a vineyard. But then maybe at that time I realized, yes, I made it, I did it. But then why am I feeling so empty? Because it's actually not what I truly believe in as an individual. I took on somebody else's, that my father's belief. That would then cause me to feel empty if I happen to actually reach that spot in life, that I actually do have a castle, that I actually do have a vineyard, but I feel empty because it's not what I truly believe in. It's not aligned to myself. So usually the belief system would actually align to each of our intrinsic blueprint. Like as in, the belief system would actually support how we find out who we are intrinsically. That's why I said it would usually be aligned. Why do I say that? Now I'm going to use myself as an example. My intrinsic blueprint is that, like on my natal chart, I'm someone who would detach a lot, okay? I detach a lot. Material things, I detach. This is literally my path. Okay, so that's why it will align to me. The belief system would align. My belief system would align to my intrinsic blueprint, as in detachment. Okay? What I believe in is that simple living. What I believe in is that living abundantly. What does it mean for me? Abundantly means self-sufficiency. That is my belief. And that would align to my intrinsic blueprint because of detachment, like material detachment. And this belief system, this belief that I have, living a simple life, organic, holistic, and self-sufficiency would then support or say align to my intrinsic blueprint of material detachment. Okay? Like that's how I would say this is how one would know that it matches. Okay, like for yourself, you can self-check. Now I'm going to give an example of how belief system can cause people to experience life very differently. Now, on a greater scale, like you would see. This example is called the Messiah complex. Okay. The Messiah complex, you could also call it the Messianic calling. Messianic calling, okay. This Messianic calling or Messiah complex is basically what you would hear people thinking they are the chosen one. The chosen one. Okay? The chosen ones. You see on the spiritual community, you see on YouTube sometimes a video will pop up saying that chosen ones, you are the chosen ones, or chosen ones, look into this video, something like this, right? Okay. This is a belief. Yes, it is a belief. Yes. The chosen one, if one believing oneself is being chosen by God, the Messiah complex, meaning, okay, the Messianic calling, that I'm the one that is being chosen by God to carry out a mission, to do something, and I'm here to, bring about changes. I need to do okay, to confront my enemies, okay, like something like I talked about enemies. There's no enemy, okay. So this exact belief of being chosen would cause a person to experience life very differently. Yeah. If you see, no, I'm not going to mention names because I was going to think of the name of a president, but if you know what I'm saying, you know. So the concept of being chosen is a belief. And what these people usually would feel is that they have this divine protection or guidance, that they would do huge things. Now, I'm not saying that they are not important, because to me, everyone is important. It is also true that everyone has a so-called mission, okay? Or missions can be different. Some people, their mission is really to live a happy, simple life. And for some other people, their mission could be to stir up certain chaos, to stir up certain things in society, so to clean out the dark matters. Yes. So there are different purposes. Every soul does have a different purpose. That's how we orchestrate the entire happenings in the universe, right? Everyone has a role. Everyone has a purpose. Existence never makes any mistakes. So that's why for the chosen ones, the so-called chosen ones, it is a belief that they think they are superior to other people most of the time. Because I'm talking about Messiah complex. Messiah complex, okay? From my personal point of view, is that what is the chosen one? Because I really do want to address this here. My own personal perspective, okay? Personal perspective only. You can have your own take. For me, the concept, the belief of the chosen ones is basically an expression of the externalization of the self. Because you have to be chosen, only then you're good. Does it make sense? And that's not healthy. You don't have to be chosen. You choose yourself. Okay? You don't have to be chosen. You choose yourself. I choose myself. That means you're chosen. And that means I'm chosen. Okay? That's it. The truth is everyone can be a chosen one, as long as you choose yourself. I choose myself. Then you are the chosen one and I am the chosen one. Okay? Meaning self-love. Meaning I choose to learn about myself. I choose to know myself. Know thyself. I choose to align to my truth. Thus, I am the chosen one. It's not about other people choosing us. That's why I said, for the belief of being chosen is actually the externalization of the self. You give your own key to another person. Be it a higher being or what, doesn't matter. Why are you giving your own key? The key of your soul, sovereignty, to another person? No, that is the externalization of the self. The key, you give it to another person. No, don't do that. Take it back. Take the key back. Back to yourself. That's yours. Okay? Choose the key, lock, unlock, love. Okay? So the chosen one, you choose yourself, then you are the chosen one. Okay? So that's a belief. Now, for some people, if they believe that they're being chosen and they have higher power, protecting them, that's okay. That's okay. I'm not saying that it's wrong or right. It's just that when some people embody this understanding, they're being chosen, they would then experience life differently. They could do things that could stir up societies, harmony in a sense, because they believe that they are doing the right things. All right. There are many situations that you've seen in history, like Hitler. Okay, that's also yeah. Because from our point of view right now, we'd be like, wow, you literally, you murder so many people, lots of war crimes, right? But for him, he would think he's the chosen one. There's a messiah complex. There's a messianic calling. It can go different ways. It doesn't have to be Hitler. It could be a person who is trying to do good, thinking that he or she is doing good, but actually turns out hurting a lot of people. So see, it's about standpoint. It's about standpoint, all right? But it stems from belief. That's why the secondary factor would then cause us to experience life very differently. Okay, I talk about my own experience, the wine, the vineyard, and the castle. Okay, you could experience differently, but I don't. Now I understand that's not what I believe in, and thus I would then experience life differently. And the chosen one is another kind of belief that could cause individuals to experience life very differently as well. Okay, now remember, choose yourself. Okay, I choose myself. Okay, so now go to the tertiary factor that determine how we experience life differently would be a chain effect. So from the belief system, from the intrinsic blueprint, so that would be the primary, to the secondary factor would be the belief system, right? We'll then go into the tertiary. Now, we are diverging. These tertiary factors would be perception. So that's basically standpoint, right? That's what I said just now. It's about standpoint. Whether you see Hitler is a bad guy, but maybe he sees himself as the good guy. So that's about perception, standpoint. In the tertiary, perception, behavior, feelings. Right? These things would decide how we experience life differently. But these tertiary factors, they are actually all stem from the primary and the secondary. It's only through the intrinsic blueprint you would respond to situations, having a certain tendency to respond to situations as an individual, as a soul, okay? And that would cause you to have other different kind of experience because of that, because of your intrinsic response, because of your blueprint. And then you would then form into having such beliefs, certain beliefs, based on your upbringing, based on how you respond to situations, and thus forming your own belief system, and even taking in other people's beliefs. So we need to declutter that, right? Now, however, because of the primary and the secondary factors, that would form into the tertiary factors. Because of what we believe in, because of how we respond to situations, so that would be the primary, right? Would then cause us to have different standpoints, perceptions, when it comes to different situations. And these different kinds of perceptions this in the tertiary, we're talking about tertiary, would cause us, our standpoints would cause us to behave differently based on our past experiences and our standpoint. So the more that now, and then I'm gonna go into the chain again, like keep going. Perception, the standpoint, would cause us to behave differently. So behavior, and how we behave would cause us to feel differently. So feelings. How we feel would then decide how we experience our life differently based on emotions. The quality of the emotion, joy, sadness, jealousy, these are all feelings. You see the chain, the entire chain effect, but they all come from primary and secondary initially, and then only to the tertiary. But what usually people deal with throughout the healing process or the knowing oneself, the know thyself process, they only touch on the tertiary things, the perception, behaviors, and feelings. That's how usually the psychological aspect would touch on, but not the belief system, nor the intrinsic blueprint. The root causes are in the primary and the secondary, not the tertiary. Not the tertiary, okay? So when it comes to perception, what is perception, right? Standpoint. What is perception? Perception, how we can actually experience life differently through the lens of perception is having the ability, enhancing our ability to see on one issue from various perspectives. If we are able to see things from a multi-perspective, multi-dimensional perspectives, we would then become more and more balanced. So basically that would be non-dual. More non-dual, because the more perspectives that you see, right, you would not be towards one extreme. The more that you see, now this is the one issue, right? One thing. Now you see from this perspective on this is the issue, okay? This is the issue now. You see from this perspective towards this, right? Now you have one perspective. Now you see from this perspective, another perspective. Now you see from this perspective, another perspective, this, another perspective is much more balanced. The more perspectives that you see from, the more standpoints that you are able to embody, to understand, to embrace, to accept and acknowledge, meaning you would not be biased. You would be less prone to bias. And the less that you are prone to bias, the more that you are neutral. And the more that you are neutral, the more that you are non-dual. Okay? Okay, basically that's the middle path. So the non-dualism, is basically the embodying of more perspectives. So then you would see the web of things happening and thus non-judgment. Being non-judgmental because you understand. It comes from understanding. Non-dualism comes from understanding. Using perspectives, okay? So that's what it is. And the more perspectives that you see, the more that you're neutral, the more that you would not be combative, the more that you would not be reactive. You would become more passive, as in stable, neutral. Okay? So that's why practicing different sadhanas, different kinds of like yogic practice, sadhana, right? Yogic practice or different kinds of what do you call that? Like decluttering the mind, right? Cleansing the mind. All these kind of practices, they are actually helping us to become more well-rounded in the way that we see things, more receptive, more inclusive, and more understanding. So that would then cause us to experience life differently because of the way that we now learn to see ourselves, primary factor, intrinsic blueprint. And secondly, our understanding our own belief system. Is this belief mine? Is this what I truly believe in? Is this belief doing me goodness or dragging me down? Because we can always cancel this belief and intake a new belief, upgrade the version, right? It's just like in video games, you upgrade the tool. You buy a better sword, right? You upgrade the sword, version 2.0. Okay, version 2.0. So and then it's like the magic ability for this sword or this wand is like 150. No, versus the one that was before, it was 80. Okay, so there's an upgrade in the belief system. That's like your own tool, your set of tools, your magician tools. And and so now that you know that what your beliefs are, yourself, and then you would have your own set of perceptions. And you keep learning about more things to enhance your perceptions, more perspectives of seeing into things. And so you would then become more non-judgmental because you're balanced, because you become more neutral as you see from more perspectives, right? The standpoints. It's all about standpoints. And thus, your behavior would become more neutral, stable. And your feelings, stable, peaceful, non-judgmental, loving, okay, fun, things like this. And that's it. So to wrap this up, the two factors that decide how we experience life would be know thyself, and learn about your own beliefs, of your own belief system. Okay, be clear with all of this, and I wish you a wonderful life journey and a wonderful decluttering process, as we are all going through. And I hope this video finds you well. Wish you peace, joy, love in your everyday life. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.